if psychology and pop culture had a baby, they'd call it Shrink Tank.
There is a sort of pendulum that's swinging back and forth where we kind of go from one extreme.
And I think there's an element of truth to
because
this.
I have something interesting later in the show that will make you feel very weird.
From Nashville and Charlotte, this is the Shrink Tank Podcast. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. If you're joining us for the first time, a very special welcome to you. If you're coming back for more, thank you so much for joining us again here in 2019. I'm Dave Verhagen here in Nashville. We have a great show for you. Our trending topic today is New Year's resolutions, and it's going to be a good one. We'll talk about that in our second segment, but first, let's meet our Charlotte panel. Dr. Emma Kate Wright is here. Emma Kate, tell us one interesting or not so interesting thing that happened over your holiday break.
Well, okay, so two things. First, I always spill things on myself, and I purchased a white sweater. Before I even wore the sweater, I managed to spill coffee on it with tags on it. So that happened. And then I also had to say goodbye to my little pupper of 15 years, Sweet Lily. So it was kind of a bittersweet holiday season for me without her.
Very much so. She's a sweetie. And speaking of spilling, by the way, I just spilled an entire water bottle over my entire keyboard and my pants and the floor. So you and I are commiserating together. So, yep. And by the way, it's still it's still dripping on me from the table. So
Ew.
Yeah, got that going on. And Dr. Frank Gaskell is here. Frank, something interesting from your holidays.
I'm not sure anything super interesting happened, but I would say that I have a big regret. And that is on New Year's Eve, we did caboodles with some of my son's friends. And I ate all of it, thinking, I'll just work it off, it'll be fine. And then had New Year's Day breakfast, and then had a big New Year's Eve dinner. And I feel and look like Jabba the Hutt. I've not felt this gross about myself in a very long time.
I can also, you and I have this in common because for New Year's Eve, I was in Louisville and we went to a Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh, no.
And you know how Brazilian steakhouse is. You turn the little thing over from red to green, and as long as the little chips over on green, they bring meat. These guys were the most aggressive Brazilian steakhouse servers of all time. They're like already like, just cutting meat off onto your plate. And I had indigestion for 2 full days.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like 100% of the time for 2 full days. So got that going for me too. So not only have I spilled water on myself, but I also have indigestion.
Well, your new workout routine should really help with that we had discussed a few episodes back.
We'll talk about that later. And Jonathan Hedderly's here. Jonathan's a licensed professional counselor, and he's our certified Asian. He rounds out the panel. Jonathan, any interesting goings-on for your holidays?
Well, the holidays themselves were pleasantly uneventful. It was just very nice and low-key. But the weirdest thing happened actually yesterday. So my wife, Julie, and my oldest daughter, Caitlin, we go to Target to do some shopping. And as we're in the parking lot, there is an elderly man who is overweight, and he's walking into Target, and he's lifting half of his shirt all the way up so you can see his bulging belly and his nipple. And he's just walking. He just walks in, lifting up half his shirt. And we get inside, and then there is an elderly lady wearing camouflage that looked like the last surviving member of the Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, my gosh.
And she had a walk that suggested she had gotten shot in World War II where she served because she was still wearing her camouflage. And then for whatever reason, we get out to the car and my daughter will not move over so I can put in all of the bags, and she's closed the door on me. So I decided to make a scene, and I started yelling as loud as I could in the parking lot, "Let me in! This is my car! Let me in!" And basically everybody within 200 yards stopped and was staring at us. So
I feel so bad for your girls.
no, she was laughing, but I'm just like, if you challenge me, you can't win. I take the Trey Ishii approach into everything.
Oh, no joke.
Yeah, you will never lose. You'd rather bite off your leg than stay caught in the trap. So one of those guys. Well, each week, Jonathan trolls around the internet. He finds a great story of psychology in the news. It's our first segment that we call
Being Human.
So Amnesty International has released a study detailing the scale of threats made against women on Twitter, calling the social media platform a toxic place in what it claims is the world's biggest data set of online abuse targeting women. So 778 women participated in this study over the course of a year, and they faced 1.1 million abusive or problematic tweets, which equaled one every 30 seconds on average. The findings also showed that Black women were disproportionately targeted by online abuse, being 84% more likely than white women to be mentioned in abusive or problematic tweets, and women of color were also more likely to be mentioned in such tweets than white women. So, Emma Kate, are you on Twitter, and whether it's Twitter or other social media platforms, what's been your experience of firsthand or just observing the vitriol of abuse towards women on social media?
Well, so I technically have a Twitter account, but I don't use it. And I think, I'd be curious about, because this study was looking just at women and the trends that are occurring on Twitter. But I mean, that statistic is staggering. For 778 people over the course of that year to have 1.1 million abusive or problematic tweets, that's terrible. And I guess part of it is, it's fantastic that Twitter is free speech. But then there's that issue of anonymity with your username. And oftentimes, you just have so much access to your phone to tweet something when you're heated. And a lot of things happen impulsively. And I guess I just worry about how Twitter is able to actually keep up with those sort of abusive tweets. And I don't think they do, it seems like.
Twitter is really important to me, only I feel like it's for communicating information for people. It's for just sharing either facts or funny stories or funny pictures or something like that. And so I haven't encountered that, but I link it to just sort of, there's this poison of not only Twitter, but the poison of all the happiness you see on Instagram. And it's just, I think it is really hurting us as a society, not just women, but kids. It's really gotten me bummed out lately, and there's some changes I think I need to make as well.
Don't you think, though, on balance, Twitter has just become a terrible thing for us? I mean, I get you've got a bazillion Twitter followers and all that, but don't you, like when I think about the promise of Twitter with the Arab Spring and all this sort of like it's going to bring information to people that don't have it, and it's going to coordinate movements and all this stuff, and it's done some of that, but on balance just seems like it's been a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, because I think we can't disregard the positives with the social connectedness and getting people involved in common causes. But at the same time, though, all I hear about is just how celebrities are going off on one another and just getting into basically fights.
I think whenever you inject a large number of people or large population of people onto any platform, this is going to happen. You're going to get the extremes, you're going to get the good, you're going to get the bad. And I don't think it's necessarily Twitter per se, as much as it is any large communication platform is going to inevitably get screwed up because of our nature.
Right. I mean, Twitter is, I will say, maybe neutral in the sense of it's a platform that people can do good or not good for it. It just seems like all the promise of it, of all the good things it could do, and there are a lot of good things it has done, seems to be far outshadowed in the last couple years with all the crappy stuff.
Yeah, I feel like by and large, Twitter and Reddit seem to be the two platforms I tend to find the most trash in terms of
attitude.
Attitude and really provoking, using really either vulgar or offensive language with the sole purpose to offend and to create uproar. And it's not to say other platforms don't have that, but I just tend to find from a volume standpoint, those two to have the most of my experiences. But now, if we're going to talk about Twitter, Frank does have the most Twitter followers, but an interesting thing is a couple times we've actually gone on to Frank's Twitter account to look at like his followers or who he's either following or stuff like, and we've sometimes found like, I don't know, questionable followers or people that Frank claims he doesn't know, but we found a few followers of the sultry type that are part of Frank's Twitter following.
That is true.
Do you wish to
boy.
comment on that?
Oh boy.
I actually thought that one of those followers was somebody you followed for me because you said you'd done something to me. So I don't even know how to reply to that. But I will say that in the past, a good 3,000 to 4,000 of my Twitter followers were purchased, but not by me, by somebody else based on a bet.
Wait. What does that mean? Someone else purchased followers for you?
Yes.
It's like when you and a buddy go to a brothel, but your buddy pays for the service.
Yeah. And I then checked out that person's Twitter followers, and about 90 to 95% of his were fake. But since Twitter did the big wash, my 6,000 plus, they're all real. So I will say everybody's real.
They're real friends.
They're your real friends, Frank.
Not friends, followers.
Oh, Frank's cult. So do you think, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to bring it back to the study. Do you think women are more likely to be mistreated on Twitter in particular than men? Do you think black women even more so? Do you think there is disproportionate amount of abuse toward women and persons of color?
Yes, I do. And I mean, this could be a longer conversation, but there's one study that recently came out that even talked about how women experience more objectification than men, but even women will turn against other women for objectifying, even at their own personal cost. So there's something very unique about the standard that women are judged by both men and women that I think a lot of just the middle of the road men avoid. So it does not shock me that this study finds that there is a disproportionate amount of abuse that women face.
I know this is a conversation for another podcast, but just a tease of it. Frank, if you were the king of Twitter, which you almost are.
The queen of Twitter.
Yeah, the queen of Twitter. What would you do? Like, what if you could make one significant improvement to Twitter in 2019 to make it less of a trash heap? What would you do?
I would do kind of what Xbox Live does is if you design a standard of ethics and a code of conduct, and it doesn't really reflect on being honest or anything, but if you violate that, you got a 24-hour ban. You violate that, you go a week ban, and everybody should be verified. Are you a real person or a robot? That's kind of what I would want to see. Transparency.
It does seem like it's the opposite for Twitter, where it's really hard, relatively speaking, to get verified. And so you've got very few people proportionally that are verified, and then you've got all these others. You can't tell if they're real, not real, all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, even Frank has had a fake Twitter account at some point.
Oh, yeah. So maybe I don't want to change that per se.
Was this a, in Jonathan's words, a sultry Twitter account?
No,
Maybe
this
salty.
was a comedy account. We'll put it that. A commodity account.
A commodity account. Got it. No, I got you. All right. Well, if you have thoughts about Twitter and whether it's good or bad, whether women or persons of color are more disproportionately targeted, we'd love to hear from you. You can write us at feedback@shrinktank.com. We'd love to get your questions or comments. All right, let's move on to our trending topic. And today our trending topic is a good one because it's at the first of the year, and we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. And let me just tell you what's coming. We're going to give each other their New Year's resolutions, I think. I think that's how this is going to work today. But before this, let me ask you guys this. What is the psychology of a New Year's resolution compared to just like, I remember hearing a guy give a great talk one time. He said, if you're really serious about change, you're not going to wait till New Year's. You're just going to change wherever you are, whenever you are, right? Which sounds good, but we still do this thing. I was driving in on New Year's Day, and the place where I live has this big workout facility right across from it, and the place is just packed, right? It's all the New Year's resolution. One of my clients says he doesn't even go to the gym for the first 2 weeks of the year because it's too packed with all the New Year's resolution people, and then he can go back. So what's the psychology? Why do we do it? Why do we still do this thing at New Year's?
Well, so part of it I would suspect is that it, okay, so this is a new year. And so people have this sort of idea of having a fresh slate, so to speak. But at the same time, part of me wonders how a lot of the resolution stuff stems from marketing with gyms. And that's kind of what you already hit on. So this is like their biggest season. And that's maybe me being a little cynical. But yeah, I think what you said earlier is that if people really want to make a change in their life, they don't have to wait, and they won't wait until New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely a marketing of the national conversation. So there is just left and right. People are having this conversation. It's already sort of like imprinted in our national consciousness of New Year's resolutions. I think Emma Kate talked about a new start. I think we are a very image conscious culture. I think I would argue more for the worse than for better. I think I like our focus and emphasis on health trends, but we can be very critical and very demanding of physical fitness and body image. So I think some of that can feed into it. But I think one of the biggest things, too, is it's coming right at the tail end of a long 6-week holiday period where people tend to really let their guard down in terms of discipline and lifestyle. So we tend to see people like Frank, basically gave us an example of overeating over the holidays.
Or going to the Brazilian steakhouse.
Yes, mm-hmm. I'm gonna take a stab here and say maybe Frank, or certainly millions of other people, maybe have indulged in a little extra alcohol-y over the holiday period too. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've also spent a little bit more money. Someone like Frank, he can do that.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
and so
here's what's fascinating.
But I think
Neither
all
of
of
those
that
two are
together,
true.
You want a fresh start of like it's time to rein in those vices and indulgences.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how this year goes. I think we're going to get to it later, but the reasons why I have succeeded in certain resolutions, either be it a workout group or the Whole 30 or something like that, is because my goal was very clear. It was spelled out. There was either a goal at the end to run the Spartan race or to, drop a certain amount of pounds.
There was a climax at the end.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And that social accountability really got me through it. If I had to do it by myself, forget about it.
Well, and so what Frank is talking about is SMART goals. So there's an acronym for when people try to create change. It's you want to be specific. You want to be doing something that's measurable. You want to have it as something that's attainable, realistic, and it's time sensitive. And the reality is a lot of times people set these very unrealistic goals and they don't really have a great reason for why they want to change. And so their motivation isn't in it.
Yeah, that. There's another component of it is you have to sort of enjoy the process. And that could be competing with a friend or socializing or seeing changes in your body or whatever, or your health. But I'll go back to this workout group I did. I did it for a couple years. It was called F3 here in Charlotte. It's actually a national organization. And I got to the point where I hated the process so much, I just couldn't stand it. Getting up at 5 a.m. is just not going to happen for me anymore. I just can't.
So you just got comfortable with seeing all the changes in your body?
Well, no, that's why I got the Peloton. So now I don't need to worry about getting up at 5 a.m.
So you bought a more convenient way to
Oh
get
my
the same
gosh.
This is true.
Oh my God.
That's what that means.
Okay, so good discussion. And so with that, what we've decided to do is take New Year's resolutions and give them to each other. Is that so? That, to be honest, sounds a little different than what you guys are saying, because in some ways we're not going to enjoy this, right? Is that fair to say?
Basically, we took what research tells us is that most people's New Year's resolutions don't last through the end of January. So this is really a 1-month resolution. That's the first thing. So we're making it very time sensitive, and we're making it more of a challenge. And we want to make it fun by kind of pushing us out of our comfort zone at something that we can enjoy and rib each other at their expense. And we haven't yet come up with whatever the fallout or consequences for whoever or the first person that can't make it through the 30-day challenge. I mean, this is like a personalized Spartan race for the Shrink Tank team here.
And by team, we're also including Sean and Mariel with this. Is that correct?
Yes, they do not get to just idly sit by and watch us suffer. They have to suffer with us.
Yep, suffer.
Producer, sound engineer, everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Suffer.
This really is a suffer challenge.
So we're going to have them on in a second. So they're both in the room over there?
Yep.
Yes, they are.
All right. So both of you are going to have to make your way over to the microphone in just a second, and we're going to give you your New Year's resolution. So who wants to go first? Who wants to?
I'll go first, Dave.
Okay. So what New Year's resolution are we giving to Frank?
Well, we could have picked a million things for Frank.
Right.
Because his body is changing a lot.
And not like a teenager's, if you know what I'm saying.
And Frank likes a certain amount of attention. And he could really use some personal growth, some humility.
Okay.
We all know he's a little neurotic, and so finding a way to balance himself.
But what we decided, because we really tried to diversify the challenges. And so for Frank, we decided that Frank is really down on a lot of holistic or more natural sort of lifestyle. And so Frank, for 30 days, every day Frank has to do yoga for 30 minutes, I believe it is. But here's an element. Each one of our challenges has one social component. So for Frank's, it's once a week. He has to do yoga out in public at an actual yoga studio where other people can participate with him or at least witness him in his yoga G-string.
It's going to be great.
This is really my worst nightmare come true because a bunch of people tried to get me to yoga, and I did.
Get me to yoga?
Yeah, get me to do the
verb
yoga.
to yoga. I will have been yoga-ing.
And seeing everybody in the clothing that they wear makes me very uncomfortable. And so thankfully, I can do yoga through my Peloton and then only have to go out 4 times publicly. But I'm very, very nervous about it. Very nervous.
Should he have to wear a unitard?
No, that's
He's
not
got to wear
part of
some
it.
type of tights.
I am wearing no. I
True
am wearing
yogis,
shorts.
they become one with their body.
No.
Now, are you accepting the challenge?
Yes, I'm accepting the challenge. I begin tomorrow.
So starting tomorrow, you're going to do yoga every day for 30 days.
Correct. 30 minutes every day.
Okay. And are you going to have a little video
I can.
diary or a little something for us?
Yeah, sure.
A little yoga pic?
Yeah, I'm going to send you guys a bunch of
with
yoga
you're
pics.
very uncomfortable with what they're wearing and what they're doing.
All right. That's a good one. We got Frank with yoga. Emma Kate, why don't you go next? Who wants to tell Emma Kate what her New Year's? I like this that we're telling people what their New Year's resolution is. All right. Who wants to tell Emma Kate what her New Year's resolution is?
So Emma Kate, we decided to do something that
This is savage.
is savage. But I'm going to add a little something to it that it might make it a little less savage. But she has to go 30 days without coffee.
Coffee.
And 4 times she's going to have to go with us to a coffee shop and watch us have coffee. But here's the little, do you want to share how you're a little more focused lately?
Well, so So for those of us that actually listen to the podcast more long term, I often get easily distracted. I sit in a very specific spot so that things outside don't derail me. And this actually kind of worked out because I recently started taking a stimulant for my ADHD.
Oh,
because
how convenient.
I basically
Right.
was self-medicating with an excessive amount of caffeine, and I'm terrified of not having coffee.
But I'm sort of filled with regret over this particular 30-day challenge because
Why?
she's doesn't need it as much as she did.
But I'm going to have raging headaches. My fiance, Evan, was like, do they know what they're doing to me? And like, I am terrified.
Is Evan going to remove all the weapons from the apartment
Basically.
for the 30 days?
Yes. But now there is a caveat, though, right? I'm allowed 1 cup of tea in the morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
For the mercy.
Yeah, I feel like we're still enabling an addict. It's
I
just
do
like,
too, actually.
have a little in the house. I'd rather you do it here.
All right. Who wants to tell Jonathan his
Well,
resolution?
Since I literally was like kicking and screaming and not on board initially with the coffee. So to get at Hedderly is a man who basically eats out every single meal. And and I'm not joking when
It's
I
not
say
basically,
that.
it's
It is
every single
meal. When we go places, all the employees always know him. They're like, "Oh, Jonathan," and they know him. and
know him, and they
they're
know him.
really good friends.
And they know my order.
Right. No, they do know your order. It's scary. But so basically, he is not allowed to eat out for any meal for 30 days.
Wow.
I have
Not once.
to cook.
Not once.
Holy cow.
No. And then he's going to have to go and watch us eat out.
And
4
the
times.
first meal that I propose on my birthday will be a trip to McDonald's where I eat a McRib in front of him.
He loves the McRib.
Oh my gosh.
I love him a McRib. Yes, it is true. And for the longest time, Dave was one of my like dine out boyfriends when we were still
big
working
time.
here at Charlotte. Like Dave would bring a lunch and he'd be like, "Did you bring a lunch, Hedderly?" I'm like, "Please." And he's like, "Well, I could be talked into going getting food if you just like exhale."
Oh man, this is bad. Okay. Over to me.
Well, I'll go here. Dave, I've known you these many
30 some years.
32 years, and I've looked at pictures of you from your youth
Yeah, it's
and
creepy.
remember how thin you were. And we recently learned that smoking is actually not as bad as exercise.
As not exercise.
Not
As not exercising. So I'm not. I remember a time when we would compete to get to 10,000 steps. And by my guess and kind of taking a gander at you lately, you're hitting about 3,200 steps.
Okay.
So your challenge will be to hit 10,000 steps a day for 30 days. And 4 times you have to hit 15,000.
What?
Boom.
Boom.
15.
He's like literally.
Ladies and gentlemen, someone call a medic right now, Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, so practically speaking,
Oh, here we go.
no, I just need to understand this. How far is 10,000 steps? Like, what is
It's-
that?
You've
I think it's about
done it.
2
You
to
did
3
it when you lived here in
miles.
Charlotte.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 miles.
Oh my gosh.
It's in a whole day, Dave.
Yeah, you can do this, bud. You got this.
Okay. All right.
So, Dave, do you have some numbers? Because, like, I have the numbers of how many times I've eaten out here recently. It's called the number every time. So, if you're trying to hit 10,000 feet, Dave, give us a ballpark figure. Or like yesterday or last week, what was your high or your average of the number of steps you took?
Well, I'm going to say 3,000.
Oh, that's on the money.
So basically, Dave, I think we're saving your life.
You might
do
Yeah. No,
but-
we are.
Well, let me ask this. How do I, because I used to have a Fitbit and I could track it. What's the app that will track number of steps? Like, does the health app on the iPhone do it?
I believe it does.
It does, but here's the issue. You have to always have your phone on your person in order for it to count that.
Right.
And if you're actually outside exercising, there's stuff like Map My Walk and other things like that.
It's called what?
There's an app called Map My Walk, but I wouldn't recommend
Don't
using
do that
all the time. That's only if you're like specifically going outside for a walk.
That's going to use all your bandwidth up.
All right.
But let me just give you one encouraging number.
All right.
10,000 steps on average is 5 miles.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That.
Time to walk, buddy.
All right. I'm going to tell you this. If I'd gone first on this thing, I would have said no. Okay.
Imagine how you're going to feel in 30 days, Dave.
Dude,
you're going to
Dave,
feel at least a year younger.
Dave, all you got to do is once a day, probably get on one of those treadmills in your workout area and take your iPad, watch Netflix, and with a brisk 20 to 30-minute walk, you will probably make up whatever you didn't do throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just think about that book. This is a great book out there. Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit.
Yeah.
So you're going to have your cue, which is maybe your workout shoes, and then you're going to get into your routine of getting on your little treadmill and listening to like an Audible book or something, and then you're going to feel rewarded because you love listening to podcasts and books.
Okay.
And you can wear your jorts.
I don't even have jorts.
Yeah, sure you do.
Do we have to pay for the oxygen canister he has to carry around with him? Like,
For the ER visit.
yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. Marielle. Hey there, Marielle.
Yes. Hello. Hi.
Glad you're here. All right. So somebody
Happy to
give
be here.
Marielle her New Year's resolution.
Well, I don't know how we came up with this, but basically, Marielle cannot eat milk products,
Dairy, yeah. Going
products for
dairy
30
free.
days, which again, we may be saving her life. I don't know. I mean, these are all about suffering and self-improvement. So these are
Yes.
all good things. So Marielle, why don't you talk a little bit about your addiction to dairy?
As an Italian American growing up, like most of my meals revolved around cheese, and I mean dairy too, milk, but definitely cheese, and it's still a part of my day-to-day life. I really do love cheese. I do. And like a couple months ago, I was going through a little period where I thought that I was maybe developing some type of intolerance, and I was devastated. I was like, I am not going to do this. Like, I'm just going to suffer through it. But I think it was just stress related. But regardless, I'm going to go dairy free for a month. It's going to be horrible, but
No cheese, no ice cream, no milk.
I know.
No sour cream,
I don't really, yeah. No yogurt.
no yogurt.
Be very
Yogurt.
sad.
I'd really
sad.
miss my yogurt.
All right. Sean Beck, get
Cheese
over
more
here.
than anything.
So, Marielle, do you accept?
I do accept. Unfortunately, I do.
I actually think you had the easiest of the ones so far, but we'll see.
That's what people think. Well, actually, my social component, I don't know if this got brought up, but my social component was that 4 days of the month, I think probably like on like a Friday lunch period when everyone else is going out to eat like super yummy food, I'm going to have to be vegan. So just a plant-based diet for those 4 days, which I'm a big carnivore, so
All right.
I wasn't going to.
Did somebody say vegan?
Speaking of vegan, Sean Beck, how are you?
Hey, Dave.
Hey there, fella. All right. Someone tell Sean his New Year's resolution.
I'll go ahead and share. So Sean is obviously our sound engineer here in the Shrink Tank, and he is working in close quarters with him. I've come to find out that he loves his morning routine. He wakes up, he has his dog Ziggy, his husky that he takes on a nice leisurely walk. He moseys on through. He typically kind of gets to work around either 9:30, 9:40 every day.
It's like a soft 9:45.
9:45 probably. So his resolution for the month is going to be to get to work every day at 7:30. Is that right? 7:30, and four days of the month he'll be having to come in at 7. So that'll
Oh
be
my
his extra
gosh.
challenge.
I would have said no to that
Early
one myself,
mornings.
by the way. I would have.
I'm with you, Dave. If I went first, right? And I have accountability because I won't be the first person here, so I won't be able to cheat because we have some people in the office who will be opening it
Correct.
up. So
Correct.
I can try to cheat, but
All
We
right.
will know.
So we're going to take video of these
Put a
things too,
cardboard
right?
cutout of you.
Yes.
That the idea. We have some occasional video that we'll post. So I tell you what we'll do. We'll create a post for shrinktank.com. We'll list out all of our challenges, and then we'll have like periodic little ratings of how we're doing. And then at the end of the month, we're going to come back and stick the landing. We're going to talk about it at the very end. That sound all right? Everybody's in.
Everybody's
Yeah.
in.
All on
Okay,
board.
before we step off this and wrap up the show, let me ask you this. Who do you think's most likely to keep the resolution? Who's most likely to not keep it?
Oh, I think I'm definitely the one most likely to not keep it.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. But I'm not saying I'm gonna not do it. I'm just saying the odds are either me. I don't think Hedderly will because he won't be defeated by anybody.
Yeah, I think Hedderly's for sure going to make it.
Emma Kate would feel guilty. I actually, my money's on Sean Beck.
I was going to say Sean. I don't know if he can do it because let's say, he's up late editing and then all of a sudden, oh crap, he overslept. So, but we'll see.
I don't, Dave, I'm not going to lie. I don't feel optimistic about you.
I don't either.
Like, I mean, there's nothing about this that's like Dave's gonna show us, and like we're all gonna eat humble pie.
I don't know what the answer is, but I will tell you this. You know that I like to go on streaks of things. If I set my mind to something, like I'm going to write every day, I'm going to do something
is
every day,
true.
I do it. And so part of what might tip the scale toward me doing it is that there's no wiggle room. It's not like do this 4 days a week or something. It's like I have to do it every day. So that might do it. I don't know. We're going to see. I'm going to try. All right. And that's going to do it for the first edition of 2019 of the Shrink Tank podcast. We hope you'll check out shrinktank.com for great articles and videos, including articles and videos about this challenge. You can also find links to our Doctor's Orders products, which we have in other podcasts. And you can follow us on Twitter at @shrink_tank and like us on Facebook. For questions or comments, drop us a note. Our email is feedback@shrinktank.com. And if you like the show, please give us a review on iTunes. It helps us build our audience, and we'd greatly appreciate it. Our producer and theme music composer is Sean Beck, who will not be showing up late to work for an entire month. And our associate producer and social media guru is Mariel Butler, who will not eat one molecule of dairy product for the month of January. For Emma Kate Wright, Jonathan Hedderly, and Frank Gaskell in Charlotte, I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. We want you to tell all your friends about us and make it a great year.
Shrink Tank.com.